Good evening, Cecil TV. I'm Grant Handley, your political correspondent. And joining me today, he's well known. You might have seen him around the county a couple of times. County Councilman Bob Meffley.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate it.
Bob, thanks for coming to the show.
Well, thanks for inviting me. So, what do you want me to talk about? Where do you want to start?
Well, we could start all sorts of places. You've been serving Cecil County Council, District 1 since 2016. I feel like people have seen you out and about. You have a prominent business here in the county. So just give us your background. Tell us a little about yourself for the voters just now tuning in.
Well, I'll tell you, the story starts off years ago. We moved from Ohio, and my dad was commander at Bainbridge. He was in charge of the prep school. What that is, that's the plebes going to the Naval Academy. So that was his education background. He had his master's in mathematics. It's funny. Then he retired from the Navy. We lived in Perryville, then we moved to Chesapeake City. My dad was also principal of Bainbridge Elementary. My mother was an English teacher at Rising Sun High School. My brother was a teacher out in Ohio. So education runs in the background. Education is very important, and that's something that we as individuals can't let go in the county. It's something that, we must educate our kids. So with that, being at Perryville High School, I had a lot of friends at Perryville. Bohemia Manor, went there 2 years, got elected council president of Bow Manor. Great people. Went to Cecil College 2 years, was council president of Cecil College. Everything was going good. Playing basketball, played on the first basketball team Cecil College ever had. The first baseball team. Basketball was a challenge. They gave me a jump ball against somebody 6'7". I looked at the referee and said, "What am I supposed to do?" I just looked at it, the ball went away. But I've had a really, really good life, really entertaining life, and I love people. And with that, I had to drop a class at Cecil College to play baseball because I was missing away games. And my luck is always with me. I was number 21 on the draft list. I was the last one drafted out of Elkton. So I went to see the recruiter. I said, "What is it?" He said, 2 years, you're going to be inventory. I said, "What's behind door number 2? He said, "What are you?" I said, "Well, I do plumbing. I'm working on my journeyman's license." I took a test. I got 100 on it. So I went to basic training at Fort Dixon, Jersey. Next thing I knew, I was a sergeant. I had no training, no nothing. They said, "Okay, fine. You're in the engineers. Away you go." I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky for 3 months just to try to learn what the Army was about. And then they sent me to Germany. They were building projects in Germany, and they had nobody could read blueprints, nobody could understand construction, so here I am. So I spent 3 years in Germany and the engineers. The last 6 months I was in Germany, the commander came and chose 12 of us to go to Copenhagen, Denmark. We remodeled the second story of the embassy. Great duty.
No kidding, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No fatigues, no haircuts, no nothing. It was great. I mean, it was like, wow, what a vacation.
Man, I did not know that. That's really interesting.
So I can't complain. I mean, the military helped me. It really did. It helps a lot of people. You figure out who you are, where you're going, and the interaction with people is so important. And friends I had in the military, I still have today.
So what brought you back to Cecil, Bob? It seems like you're all over the world there.
Well, when I got done, basically, I got back here. A girl I dated in high school, I married her. She was from Bohemia Manor, and what happens? You wind up in Chesapeake City. That's just the way it goes. Happily married for a lot of years. So what happens when you get out of the service? You don't know what to do. Well, I did plumbing and heating, so I went to work. It used to be called Elkton Supply because I wanted to learn heating and air conditioning, which they did. So I learned heating and air conditioning trade, then had a job offer at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. So I went and worked for the government. And it was a great job, good benefits, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I always wanted to do something on my own. So I left a beautiful retirement, I left a great job, and opened up H&B Plumbing in 1980. And I've been there ever since. Now I'm very fortunate. My son runs it. My son-in-law runs the heating and air conditioning side, and my daughter does the estimating. And I go in the mornings just to get in the way. When you retire or semi-retire, what happens is you show up, they say, "Why are you here? Don't you have something to do? Go get coffee, do whatever."
Right.
So that's what I do, but I love it.
Well, that's awesome, Bob. It's really interesting background. Well, when you were elected in 2016, you've seen your fair share of problems and issues in Cecil County. You've had the revitalizations of downtowns. You've had the opioid addiction and things like that plaguing certain communities in the county. And then in 2020, we had a little problem called COVID-19. So throughout those 8 years, what accomplishments have you felt like you've accomplished in your tenure as a county councilman?
Well, I'll tell you, we've been very fortunate. We've had good people as leaders. We really have. And every leader is a little different. They look at problems similar, but their actions are a little different on what they do and direction they go in.
Right.
I was very fortunate. The charter, which we voted for, is a great document, but it's like a moving target. And while I was president with the council, I was president 2 terms, we had 7 charter amendments, making the charter better, making it better for the constituents of Cecil County. Not for us as government officials, but for you.
Right.
And I think that's very important. Does the charter need tweaking a little bit? Yes, it does. So that's probably one of the biggest things I've done. Lowering taxes, voting for the tax cuts, yes. Lowering for money back to the constituents, that all came in as one package. But what's the kicker with that is with the lowering taxes was also the raises for the public safety, for the sheriff's office, for dispatchers, for 911, for emergency crews. That was very important because we were losing key people in the county.
Right.
And anytime you can do that and you have the money to do that, to bring people in, to hire people, to retain the people you have, that's a great feeling that you're able to do that.
Definitely.
So I think that's probably, just a lot of legislation, the opioids, voting for that, getting the money back from the settlements that Cecil County is getting, being able to fund the nonprofits with the money coming back, that makes you feel good. And I know they need it because the work they do sometimes is very unappreciative. People say, oh, it's not my child. But you know what? It is. And people don't look at it that way. You have to look at, I can help you today, and guess what? On down the road, I'm going to need help, and you're there. And I think that's what it's all about.
That is a powerful point, Councilman, and you kind of touched on our next question here. Important question, so I'm going to read it verbatim. You're part of the Cecil County government. Your goal is to try to create a better future for Cecil, and that requires an ongoing balancing act between controlling costs and maintaining services. This includes education, it includes public safety, public works, Cecil County Public Library, and other litany amount of services. How do you negotiate these competing priorities in a civil manner that actually gets us to our goals? So it's kind of a two-parter. One, you have all these priorities. How can you guys, with a single budget, find a way to fund all of these important, critical services, including Cecil County Public Schools, been a very topical issue, and I'm sure you have a lot to say on the issue. And it's one thing to say, Councilman Meffley, this is what I think should happen with the funding, but how do we get to a goal? How do we get to an end goal instead of just bickering and debate between the two sides of this issue?
Well, I think the first thing is basically you have to look at your budget. Your budget comes from the county executive. The council does not set the budget. Some people are under the illusion as a councilman, you're in charge of the You're not. You're the legislative body. You vote on what comes to you. Now, you can take away from the budget, but you can't add to it. So right there, that's one of our charter regulations. One of the charter regulations I would love to see a change is when the budget comes to the council. If 3 people in the council if they look at the budget and the perception of the council is, oh my God, this isn't, we can change something in the budget. It goes back to the county executive, no harm, no foul. But that's not there. That's not in place. The county executive meets with every department. So hats off to her, him, whoever's in that position. And they have to decide, okay, what has to be funded or what is a wish list? There's always two. There's 2 sides to everything. And then when it comes to us, we listen to them and we have to do the same thing. We have to see where is that money going to the best place? Is that money going to be used for something? And a question that we always ask, and I think it's very important, is you had funding last year. What did you do with your funding? How did you spend your funding last year? Because we all know throwing money at a problem does not solve anything. You can have the problems all day long, but if you're just throwing money at it, that's all you're doing.
Right. Right. That's a fair point. So we kind of see this discourse right now. I'm sure you've been on Facebook, or you've obviously had to attend all of the roundtable discussions and work sessions and things like that. And it seems we kind of have two sides to some of these funding issues, and it's kind of a nasty gridlock right now. I personally have not seen much compromise. I haven't seen, and I haven't been at the table, mind you. I haven't seen much compromise. I haven't seen much middle ground. Do you foresee some sort of negotiating with your fellow councilmen that you
Sure.
disagree with?
Well, I tell you, the school funding, everybody's seen what's happening with school funding right now. We tried to have a round table. It just didn't work. Jerry Springer would have had a better meeting than we had. I mean, it was a nightmare. But anyway, by the same token, both sides voiced their opinion. They really did. So how can we fix this? Now, I'm going to go through, if I have time, to give you some facts, some
Sure.
short facts.
Absolutely.
2021, there was more funding per student than ever because of COVID. Okay, that's number one. Number two, in 2022, 23, and 24, 14 million a year came to the school board, 14 million per year because of COVID. Okay, so that money is gone. That money's not there anymore. So what happens? We're going to go down the list. Transportation costs. Not only for transportation's up, but not only for buses. Something that people didn't know is we have buses. We have a small bus that goes to Baltimore every day for special need children that we can't treat them. We can't help them in Cecil County. We don't have the facility. We don't have the educators for that. So they go there for special education, professional training. Classrooms. I can tell you, I've been in classrooms. The neatest feeling in the world is to go to a classroom. You walk in, there's 26 to 30 students, and it's pre-K, the little guys. You have one para in the back, and what that para is doing is taking care of our special needs kids. You might have 3 in that class. The other one is running around in circles all the time. The teacher's trying to teach on a smart board, and the other kids are sitting there, but yet when this kid tries to get out of the door every day, they have to go get him and bring him back. In the meantime, the kids are looking at the smart board, and the kids were very good, every classroom I've been in, but you take away from the teacher's focus. You take away from the kids' focus. And I think that's something that we really need to work on, is the number of students in there, or have 2 paras. If they have a special needs child, have people that can take care of them so the teacher can do her job. So, and the teachers, this is all about funding. 3.75 raise. And the reason being is because according to the blueprint, by 2027, they have to be making $60,000. They probably started off in the 40s, somewhere in the middle 40s, they have to be up at 60. So we have that. And the school board also has to pay. If you have a child that wants to take college classes, do you know the school board, public schools, has to pay not only tuition, but books, any fees that child incurs going to college from high school? So that's on the school board. So I can see the school board, I can see why they're doing this. Oh my God, we need help. We need $21 million over maintenance of effort. I can see where they're coming. But because no one wants to see sports, band, chorus, school technology. We don't want to see anything cut. So what I do is just give you a basic line of and this is what's going on. What's happened in the past, in my opinion, is in the past. We have to worry about FY25 and what we can do and how we can help. So with that, another thing, help. Now this is kind of scary to all of us. The health cost, $6 million more this year. Going to be $6 million more for anybody employed through the school board. What are we required to do? Give them $5 million. So right there, what does that tell you? You're $1 million under. So right there, it tells you that you don't have the balance. So the blueprint itself skips colleges. Cecil College gets nothing. Cecil College also has fees that are cut. Right now, there's a thing called the CADE formula where they get their money through the college, through the state. There's people now that are trying to cut that. So Cecil College is in trouble. with funding. They really are. And Mary Bolt's doing a great job. She is excellent. So now that we have that picture, let's look at the other side of the coin. What's the other side of the coin? Cecil County has a debt ratio of $258 million. Think about that. So with $258 million that you owe through bonds and through debt, to me, it's hard. It's hard to lift that number that the school board needs. It really is. So even with the unassigned fund balance of $32 million, and the state will be cutting our highway user fees, so who's going to pay for the roads in Cecil County? You are. You are. Our funding is being cut right now by the governor. I can see this happening. The inner cities, don't worry, they have mass travel. More money's going to the inner cities, less money's going to rural counties. And the blueprint, like I said, it calls for $5 million over last year, so that'll give them $93 million from the county. And they're probably getting, I think their overall funding is probably $270 million from the state and the feds. So that's where they're at. When you hear all these numbers, it's like, it's hard. It's really hard to comprehend. So my thing is, why don't we meet? What can we do? Let's get a plan. My plan is, and I'm hoping that somebody's listening to me or watching this, because what I'd like to do is my plan would be to fund projects that are non-reoccurring costs so the maintenance of effort is affordable in years to come. And what I mean by that is maintenance of effort is if you give them $5 this year, next year it's $6, next year it's $7. With that fund balance and with no funding coming into the county, tell me what's going to happen in 4 years. We're not going to have any revenue. So it's a balancing act. So if we do what I said, the non-occurring cost for maintenance, then what's happening, all this black cloud goes away, because if a boiler gets put in, the county gets an invoice. They know exactly what they're paying for.
Right.
If a chiller goes in, the county knows what they're paying for. Then this thing about where the money went, who took the money, it's transparent. And I really think if they'll do that, that's a great thing to do. And plus, that'll free up enough money, because God forbid you get rid of sports. There's kids that are in school to play sports. They know they'll never make it academically. They might not be a tradesman, so they're hoping for a life in sports. And sports, band, chorus, VOTEC, I do not want to take that away from any child. And I think that's the key to this whole thing. So I'm off my soapbox.
No.
Thank you.
No. Very interesting stuff here. Ladies and gentlemen, County Councilman Vice President Bob Meffley joining us today at Cecil TV. You've heard a lot of things he's had to say, talking about his background, what he's done in his past, and some plans for the future, which includes funding various projects in a way that one-time funding. That way, year after year, you know what cost to expect.
Exactly.
Interesting model. I'm Grant Handley. Councilman Bob Meffley. Have a good night.